The first time Aarav Malik saw the girl collapse, he thought it was just another ordinary bad day, but the way her small body hit the polished marble floor, silent, fragile, and terrifying, told him this was something far worse. Everything stopped. The chatter of expensive heels clicking across the corporate lobby faded. The hum of elevators froze in his ears. Even the sunlight pouring through the towering glass windows seemed to dim as Aarav rushed forward, his heart pounding with a fear he didn't yet understand. He didn't know her name. He didn't know who she belonged to, but in that moment, none of that mattered. He just knew she needed help, and somehow, this moment would change his life forever. Before we begin this story, if you believe that kindness, sacrifice, and second chances still exist in this world, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel, Home with Dad. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them the most. Aarav Malik had never imagined his life would bring him here, standing inside a towering corporate building that seemed too polished, too perfect, too distant from the world he came from. He was a single father, raising his 6-year-old son Kabir in a small rented apartment where every rupee mattered and every decision carried weight. His days were spent juggling work as a delivery driver and nights helping Kabir with homework, cooking simple meals, and trying to be both mother and father at once. Life had not been kind to him. Losing his wife years ago had carved a quiet emptiness inside him, but Kabir had filled that void with laughter, questions, and a kind of innocent love that kept Aarav moving forward. Still, survival wasn't easy. Bills piled up, opportunities slipped away, and hope often felt like something meant for other people. That morning, Aarav had entered the building only because of a delivery assignment. Nothing more, nothing less. He had planned to be in and out within minutes. But fate had other plans. The girl lay unconscious on the floor, her pale face framed by soft curls, her tiny hand trembling as if reaching for something that wasn't there. Aarav dropped the package he was carrying and knelt beside her, calling for help, his voice louder than he had ever heard it before. Panic spread across the lobby as people gathered, but no one moved as quickly as he did. He lifted her gently, careful not to hurt her, his instincts guiding him even though fear threatened to paralyze him. Someone finally called for medical assistance, but Aarav didn't wait. He carried her outside, flagging down the first vehicle he saw, urgency pushing him beyond hesitation. The hospital corridors smelled of antiseptic and uncertainty. Hours passed, like years. Aarav sat in a chair, his hands still trembling, unsure why he had stayed. He could have left. No one had asked him to remain. But something about that moment, the way her small fingers had curled weakly around his sleeve, refused to let him walk away. When she was finally taken into a private room, Aarav learned the truth. The girl's name was Meher, and she was the daughter of one of the most powerful women in the city, Ishaani Verma. The name carried weight. Even Aarav, who lived far from the world of wealth and influence, had heard of her. She was a CEO known for her sharp decisions, relentless ambition, and an almost unbreakable reputation. People admired her, feared her, envied her, but no one really knew her. When Ishaani arrived at the hospital, everything shifted. The air grew tense. Staff moved faster. Voices lowered. She walked in with a presence that commanded attention, her face calm yet shadowed by something deeper, something fragile that only those who truly looked could see. When she reached Meher's bedside, that strength cracked. Aarav saw it in her eyes. Fear. Not the kind that came from losing money or power. The kind that came from the possibility of losing everything that mattered. Doctors spoke in hushed tones, explaining that Meher suffered from a rare medical condition. It was serious, complicated, expensive to treat, even for someone like Ishaani. And time was running out. Aarav should have left then. But he didn't. Days turned into repeated visits. Not because he was asked, but because something inside him refused to let go. Kabir would come along sometimes, sitting quietly, offering small smiles that somehow made Meher's weak ones grow a little stronger. The two children formed a bond that felt pure and effortless, untouched by the complexities of the adult world around them. Ishaani noticed. At first, she saw Aarav as just another stranger who had helped her daughter. But slowly, she began to see more. She saw the way he spoke gently, the way he listened, the way he carried his own pain without letting it harden him. She saw Kabir's laughter echoing through sterile hospital halls, bringing life back into a place that had forgotten joy, and for the first time in a long time, something inside her began to soften. But reality was cruel. Meher needed a specialized treatment abroad, one that required not just money, but legal approvals, family documentation, and certain conditions that Ishaani, despite all her power, struggled to meet due to complicated personal circumstances. Time was slipping away, and every solution seemed just out of reach. That was when the unthinkable was proposed. A marriage, not out of love, not out of desire, but out of necessity. A legal arrangement that would fulfill the requirements needed to secure Meher's treatment abroad. Aarav was shocked when Ishaani approached him with the idea. It sounded absurd, almost unreal. He was a man who had nothing but his honesty and his son. She was a woman who had everything except peace. Why him? Because she trusted him. Because she had seen something in him that money couldn't buy. Because in a world full of people who wanted something from her, he was the only one who had given without expecting anything in return. The decision wasn't easy. Aarav struggled with it. Nights were spent staring at the ceiling, questioning everything. Was this right? Was he stepping into a world where he didn't belong? What would it mean for Kabir? For his own heart? But then he would remember Meher's fragile smile and Kabir's quiet words one night when he asked, "If you can help her, why wouldn't you?" That was all it took. The marriage happened quietly, without celebration, without joy, just signatures on paper and a shared understanding of why it had to happen. Two strangers bound together by a purpose neither of them had chosen, yet both had accepted. Life after that was complicated. Aarav moved into Ishaani's world, a place filled with luxury, but lacking warmth. Every corner of the grand house felt unfamiliar, almost intimidating. He struggled to find his place, to understand the rules of a life so different from his own. Ishaani too struggled. She was used to control, to structure, to independence. Letting someone into her life, even in name, challenged everything she had built around herself. But amidst all the tension, something unexpected began to grow. Small moments, shared silences, unspoken understanding. Kabir and Meher became inseparable, their laughter filling the house with something it had been missing for years. Aarav found himself slowly breaking down the walls around Ishaani, not through force but through patience, kindness, and a quiet strength she had never encountered before. And Ishaani for the first time began to feel human again. But just when everything seemed to be shifting towards something better, the truth began to surface. The treatment, the risks, the secrets that had been buried deep within Ishaani's past. Aarav discovered that the situation was far more complicated than he had been told. There were people who didn't want Meher to survive, not because of who she was, but because of what her existence meant for power, inheritance, and control. The marriage that had started as a solution had unknowingly pulled Aarav into a world of hidden conflicts and dangerous intentions, and suddenly, it wasn't just about saving Meher. It was about protecting a family that had slowly, unexpectedly, become his own. The turning point came on a bright afternoon, when the sun shone too beautifully for something so devastating to happen. Meher's condition worsened, the urgency became real, the risks became unavoidable, and Aarav had to make a choice that would change everything. He stepped forward, not as a stranger, not as a temporary husband, but as a father. He offered something no one had expected, a sacrifice so deep, so personal, that it left Ishaani speechless. Because sometimes, love doesn't come from where you expect it. Sometimes it grows in the spaces between pain and hope, and sometimes the people who enter your life for a reason end up becoming the reason you live. As the story nears its end, if this journey has touched your heart even a little, take a moment to like, share, and comment. Stories like this remind us of the quiet strength of ordinary people, and your support keeps them alive. Special request. Comment. Kindness still wins if you believe that even in the darkest times, humanity can shine through. In the end, what shocked Aarav the most wasn't the marriage, or the challenges, or even the sacrifices. It was the realization that he hadn't just helped save a child, he had found a family, a real one, and in doing so, he had saved himself too.